we finally meet.
Yes, nice to meet in person. Or kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Oh, I don't have my camera on. I usually just do audio only, but we can do camera too. That's fine.
Oh, it's
It,
however you want to do it.
it'll just be for the podcast anyway. So,
Okay, cool.
the joys of broadband now, things are a lot better than they used to when you have video and suddenly you'd get major delay.
Yeah.
When we do everything by Google Hangouts, which was, you
Can
know,
you hear me?
hey, now I can hear
Here
you.
she is.
Oh, good. Okay.
Hey, there you are.
Sorry, I'm having trouble
No, it's okay.
figuring this out.
It's all good.
Okay. I think I have it now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
hear you.
It's clear.
Yep, you're clear.
Sorry about that.
No,
It's like-
it's,
How do I pick up the call?
the joys of
Been a while.
the joys of technology. I must say, mad props for you and your Sniper 3 poster.
Oh, thanks. That's one of my favorite movies.
Is it really?
Yeah, I love that film.
I think I saw that one. Was it that one or the first Sniper? I saw one of them in a theater. I actually saw one
Oh,
in a
that'd be
theater.
awesome.
Yeah,
It was probably the first one. I don't think the third one was theatrical.
yeah, that's right. It was the first one. So yeah, it's an interesting series. So, but that I'm impressed with the posters. So not a lot of people watch those. Yeah, how's quarantine treating you out there?
Well, I'm not really quarantined because I got to go to work every day.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was for like 6 weeks, and
Mhm.
then they hired us back, and so I've been working ever since.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Tanya, how about you? How are things with you?
Well, we finally got our construction finished. Remember, I told you all
Yeah.
that
Yep.
time ago we were having. We finally got everything finished because the workers were under quarantine for a couple weeks, and then when they came back, everything was on back order, and then they had to work with us and their other jobs, and so it's been kind of crazy. And I actually haven't been working, but I do have a staff meeting tomorrow, so that'll be interesting. So
How's that work exactly?
yeah, I told them I'd come in, but I was like, weird. Okay, I haven't worked for months, but I'll go to the staff meeting.
And you're fine until they go to, okay, now Tanya, could you tell us your update on your projects? And you'll be like, my bathroom's done. So yeah, I want to thank you both for taking time to talk about your new film that's out. Joseph, you've got Specimen 6. Now,
Yes.
what I usually like to do is get the director to, if you don't mind, give kind of my listeners the synopsis of what Specimen 6 is about.
Okay, are we recording right now?
We are indeed.
Oh, okay, cool. Then I'll try to not have so many dirty jokes.
No, you can
So-
have as many dirty jokes as you want. That's fine. We're quite open here in the spoiler room. So,
All right. Yeah, so I directed this film that Tanya's in. It's called Specimen 6. It's kind of my homage or love letter to the slasher genre. And my film is really about the creation of the slasher. And I kind of went and I thought about all the different aspects of the backstory and creating, because I like the details, I like the minutia and everything like that. Like, so my film is really not just about the slasher himself. It's really about this doctor, Marissa Gray, who is very obsessed with science, and she's trying to create this ultimate killer to basically sell to the military. But her ultimate goal is just the pursuit of science. So it's kind of a science gone awry, as it were, sort of story. And so we follow her as she harnesses pure evil itself and combines that with science and technology to create this slasher killer who at one point gets out into the world. And then it's really about, at certain points, his impact on the natural world. What is it that this pure evil, how does the world react to that? And basically it was also my want to do like a Jason Voorhees sort of thing, but also have to see Jason Voorhees do all the things I've always wanted Jason Voorhees to do.
Sure.
So I wanted to create a character that I could put him in certain weird situations, and I think I did that. So, but I think I did it deftly as well. So, yeah. So it's a different sort of slasher killer film told in 6 different stories.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. That was an interesting approach to take for doing it as an anthology, but it's basically an origin story of your killer,
Yes.
of the slasher, but done in a very interesting way. What was the idea behind that? Did you just want to see maybe a story told differently than your normal cookie cutter origin story, or what was kind of the motivation behind doing it as an anthology?
Well, my initial idea with Specimen 6 was I started working on the world and the character maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it was originally called Experiment 6, and I was working on it as a novel. And I was having some issues. I wrote with that because I wrote the first few chapters and it just wasn't working for me, and so I kind of put it away. And then when I went to go make the film, I just thought if I wrote it and created it in 6 different shorts, it might be easier to film that way, broken up over the course of a year. That way it wasn't planning this whole thing to shoot in 2-week time. So if I had done a full-length narrative feature like that, I probably would have written a completely different story, more of a kind of a slasher killer kills a whole bunch of people at a camp sort of thing.
Sure.
I thought it was going to be easier this way. It actually kind of made it harder. And so, because every time I went back to go because I was writing it as I was making it. So I would write the script and then I would cast it and then I would get all the stuff ready and I would shoot with a cast for 2 or 3 weekends. Sometimes you can see in the film which one's probably just the one weekend, but we ultimately my goal was to do this because I thought it was going to be easier, and it was not easier.
Ended up being the kind of going through all the pre-production stuff multiple times
over and over
again.
Yeah, and it's by the end of it, I was pretty exhausted, and I was just happy that it was done. So.
Well, it is an interesting approach to the slasher, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. Now, Tonjia, how did you become involved in the project?
Well, Joseph and I have known each other for a couple years, and he had done a short film that I'd watched a while back. And then I saw that he was doing a crowdfunding for a feature, and I was pretty excited about that because I felt like, the stuff that he does and stuff he's interested in is just kind of the same vein of stuff that I'm interested in and doing. So I was really excited about that, and I got, really supportive of the film and got behind the whole campaign. And I just one day was like, hey, because I was thinking about it, and because I've been doing so much writing and directing, I haven't been able to do as much acting unless it's been for myself. And so I've been wanting to do more just pure acting where I don't have to do anything else.
Gee, why would that be?
So I was like, hey, if you have a role for me, just so you know, I'm looking to do this. And if it'll work out, let me know. And it did.
So I'll jump in on that.
Sure.
So Tonjia called and said, hey, if she told me that whole spiel about wanting to just do the acting and stuff like that. And she says, if you have like an extra role or something like that. And I'm like, I thought that was absurd. I was like, no, Tonjia Atomic's not going to play an extra role in my film. She's going to play a big role in my film. So I actually tailored. So I went to the drawing board with my friend Amy, who wrote that segment with me. And I said, we have to write a really awesome part for Tonjia Atomic. And so I basically wrote that whole hell sequence because of Tonjia. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, the hell sequence really worked. And what I found interesting, and I'm not sure, I wanted to find out if it was kind of intentional, is you get the first short, which is Travis, which I loved because you totally bamboozled me
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I'm like watching this going, okay, and it's a short, and so I'm always waiting for that shoe to drop, and it doesn't. I'm like, oh, okay, music and everything, and then it just takes off the cliff and goes to this really dark place, like really quickly, and I'm like, oh, okay, and then I notice not only does your first short do that, but this film kind of does that to where, I mean, you have some dark things, and then this last chapter that Tanya's in literally blew me away. Like, wow, okay, this is just out there, but I was digging it. I liked the different approach. You handled it, I thought, a lot better than some parts of Jason versus Freddy. But was that kind of your intention? Was kind of the lull you like that, or
it was absolutely, and I'm so glad it worked. I'm glad you enjoyed it from the get-go. So like I was saying earlier, I had been working on the concept a little bit as a book, but then I put it away, and it just kept sticking in my brain, and because I wasn't sure how to do this thing, and so I started thinking, how does the evil come about? And then I woke up at 2:00 in the morning, and all of a sudden I couldn't stop thinking, and I thought the whole story of the Travis character laying there, and then I got out of bed about 2 hours later, and I just started writing, and I wrote it all in one shot. And it was, I wanted to be kooky, that you wouldn't know what was happening, and then all of a sudden shit gets so dark that it would upset people. I was like, I really want people to feel this. And my big thing when I'm telling a story is I like people to kind of get invested in the characters before I off them. And so, because it makes it the more emotional attachment, but also with the storytelling itself, I'm very unconventional when it comes to the stories I like to tell, and I like the highs and I like the lows. So, and with every short that I did, I wanted it to be distinctly different in tone and style, and hopefully that came across. And especially with the hell sequence, but yeah, that was my intention. I wanted to take the audience for this crazy, like, just roller coaster ride. That was my big intent with it.
Yeah, and I did notice there was a separation in the different styles of each short. I mean, some anthologies you kind of get very similar stories. I mean, they're good, usually, but they're very similar in tone, or they usually have a theme. And in here, you've got the Travis one, which is kind of the the good guy turn. You got the Sinister Mysteries, which is more of a paranormal. And then you even threw in there, what is it, the Unbound one, which is all told by security footage, which I really liked. It was short. You didn't do it too much, but yeah, I mean, I can see how logistically this was tough to put together. Now, did you direct all the segments yourself, or did you have help in directing some of them?
I'm essentially like the 80%. I worked with my filmmaking partner John Stone, and so we directed a couple other things together, and so he would be there, kind of like if I was like lulling a little bit, and then John would have some ideas to put in there, and so it was kind of like my vision. I was kind of like the showrunner, and then John kind of helped me get through and direct some of it. But then also, I ended up meeting one of the cast members, Lillian Mangan, who is in The Experiment. She plays Fiona.
Okay.
And she auditioned for the Sinister Mysteries one. And I thought she wasn't quite right for that particular role, but I really thought she was an awesome person. And so I got her as my AD on the Sinister Mysteries. And then I wrote with John the Experiment one with Lillian in mind to play that role of Fiona. And then later on, when we did that 4-box one, the security cam one, she actually helped me direct that, because I had to play Specimen 6 laying in the box some of the time. And so she kind of picked up the slack, and she has a really good eye for directing too. So I kind of like just draw everywhere I go. So I, co-wrote most of them with other people, John Stone or my friend Amy Christine Moline. And then, and it's definitely a big team experience with me kind of whipping people. So yeah.
Well, that's what a director does, right?
Yep.
You whip people, right, Tanya? That's what directors do. You whip people.
I've whipped people in the past. Yeah.
Well, for work or pleasure? No, that's okay.
During a film shoot, does that answer your question?
Well, so for both, then there you go. You get it. Tanya, what did you think of the role when you saw when Josh gave that to you? Because this is a different role that we're used to seeing you in, and you really seem to just dive into this role of evil.
Well, I'm glad you say that because it actually was my most difficult role that I've ever had. But that said, I was really excited about that because the dialogue was very intricate and it wasn't easy dialogue. A lot of the projects I do, it's more common type conversational speech. And this was not, and a lot of big words in there. But I was really happy about that because it was a good challenge for me. And that's exactly what I wanted to, start getting into acting in other people's projects for, was to be challenged and push myself a little bit harder, learn new things. And so that said, because it was challenging, it was really enjoyable to me, and it was exactly what I was looking for. So, and I've never worn as much makeup before in a role, and and just had to memorize so much dialogue, and I think and I was like hoping that I did a good job, and I hope Thank you. I also have never had to be like so commanding and so evil in a role. So that was really cool too. Something I really have never done before. So I really enjoyed it.
Well, you seem to own that because it felt very natural the way you did the dialogue as well. In all honesty, and this isn't a slight on the genre, but just simple fact, for an indie film, the way you sold this Lucifer role felt very natural, and it really actually it was really solid. A great way to kind of bookend the movie a bit with that role and that makeup. Yeah, the makeup was impressive. Joseph, for the makeup that you did, you do have effects in here and makeup effects, but they're used sparingly. Did you have a particular person in mind that you normally work with, or how did you go about that for choosing where you had the makeup?
Well, I do. I have a few people that I kind of use as my makeup team. And for the shoot with Tonjia, which was probably the easiest shoot of the whole movie, because I showed up and she showed up and she knew her lines and she knew how to hit a mark, and it flowed and it was awesome. But I always have a team. So my friend Shauna Johnson, who is actually in the film twice as an actor, she worked on the makeup, as well as Alex Moline, who is not in the film but did the makeup that day. And Alex Moline actually did some makeup and shooting stuff on my other film, The Last Temptation of Bible Boy. And so I wanted to get Alex in there. And so they both attacked Tonjia, and then I think it took like 2 hours or so, 2.5 hours to get the makeup done. And and so and for other things, I had a lot, like my wife helps a lot, and John helps. Everybody kind of throws in when we can, and so we do have like a lot of guts in our film, and so we had to create guts multiple times because they are semi-real guts.
Oh.
And so I know PETA people aren't going to like me very much, but we used sheep intestines that you can buy at the butcher, and then it comes all like flattened and everything, and then you fill it with a sausage filler, and then you create the insides with refried beans, beets, and hot dogs. Wow. And then and it does not smell good at all when you're making it, but it looks real.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so we did that, and I always like to create lots of props for my films myself. So myself and Shauna and John created the mask. We all sat here and created the mask, and yeah. So I kind of forget what the nature of the question was.
No,
but,
that's okay. No, that's what I wanted. I was just curious about the makeup and the gore effects and everything that you had there, because they look impressive where you do use them. And now I know why, because those are real intestines. How very Toby Hooper of you. Although I think most of your intestines were used outside and not under hot lights for 24 hours in a room.
Yeah, no actual roadkill or anything like that.
No actual roadkill was harmed in this picture.
Yeah.
Now, for your casting, you've done a number of indie films. Did you have a number of people in mind when you were doing the casting, or did you do a roll call out for a lot of people, or
a little of this and a little of that? Mm-hmm. So for the first one, for the Travis, I kind of wanted to play a role that I've never played before, and that kind of played a part. Because I did a lot of theater back in the day in high school, and I studied at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. So I've done a lot of theater, but they were never really like bad people. And I wanted to play a really bad dude, but I wanted to, trick people into thinking that he was a good dude.
Yeah.
And so I wrote that role intentionally for myself, just so I could get gross and dirty with it. Jim Squint, who plays Teddy in that one, he's a friend of mine. I know him. I wrote that for him. He showed up at a barbecue, and I said I had a role for that. I wrote for him. He'd never acted before, so a few times I used a lot of my friends in there. But we did, for Sinister Mysteries, we held an audition, and we auditioned, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 female actors, and they're all wonderful. But we ended up casting two of them for that particular film, and then Lillian, who was in The Experiment. So I got them through casting, and then other people were just friends that I said, "Hey, could you do me a favor?" And then of course Tonjia, who she reached out to me, and then I thought, well, Tonjia Atomic wants to be in my film, so I'm going to write the best fucking thing I can think of writing for. And and so it was just a little bit of this and that. And then my friend Shauna, who plays a couple things, mostly because she's willing to get covered in blood and also willing to get naked. There's always that too.
There's always that too. You do have nudity in here, though. You do save it for the final act. So
I would have had more of it if I could have.
Well, it does sell movies, right? Yeah, it's just I saw that you also did crowdfunding for it, and I noticed I just was talking to another individual, a director, Josh Pearson. He did this film called Where Sleeping Dogs Lie, and he was talking about crowdfunding too, and he kind of had a not the greatest experience with it. For you and your crowdfunding, how did that go for you with this film?
Well, I'll tell you, I won't do it again. So I was very thankful for everybody that did contribute to it. And it helped in the short run to kind of buy some costumes and help feed my actors and stuff, which is kind of the big thing when you're on a no budget set, is just feed everybody.
Right.
And but in the end, and I got to get the DVDs and packages out to everybody within the next couple weeks here. Basically, all it really ended up doing was putting me on a timeline and kind of stressing me out about getting the film done within a certain amount of time.
Sure.
And it wasn't enough money to justify doing it again. And really, I'm spending just as much money out of my own pocket just to fulfill those perks.
Sure. So, and that's why I kind of asked, because, some people, think I'll just crowdfund my movie. That'll be, it's not exactly the case.
Yeah, I wish it were. I wish it was so easy, and that it actually helped more. But to be honest, no, I wouldn't do it again. Especially, all my the movie itself probably cost somewhere between $1,500 to $1,700.
Sure.
And I would have just as easily paid I think at the end we got $640 after Indiegogo took their thing. I would have been more than happy to pay that few extra $100 not to deal with that stress to get things done.
Sure. The challenges of indie filmmaking, right?
Yep.
Now, for locations for this film, did you have some in mind as well, or did you do some location scouting? Because you're in all kinds of places, in the woods, buildings, warehouses, basements.
So well, a lot of it was filmed around Whatcom County here, except for with Tonjia. We ran over to my brother's house in North Seattle. We filmed her green screen stuff. The great thing about green screen is you can film that anywhere. But so we filmed locations at my house. So in a couple of the different shorts, we used the outside of my house for the first one, and we used the inside of my house for the psychic, and we used my friend's house over a few blocks away from here for stuff. And then Shauna, who is wonderful, her and her mom, they own a big piece of property. That's where all the woods were. And I shot out there constantly. And so every time you see something outdoorsy, it was over at their house because they have a huge piece of property. And you can see that in the film too. There's certain locations that, like, I think I remember that branch or that tree, and then for the office one, we shot over at the community college nearby. I shoot anywhere. Oh, and then we had the bar, of course. So I was able to pull some strings to shoot at the bar as well. So just mostly around Whatcom County and just kind of filming wherever I could. Yeah. Oh, and my garage. So.
And your garage. Always a great fallback studio, the garage. So, Tonjia, coming back to you with your evil character, did you pull any influences or anything when you were embodying this role, like from past films you've seen or anything? Did you use anything for kind of inspiration?
Not really from past films or other artwork. I was mostly just trying to channel a side of me that felt very detached from other beings, very self-centered, very much the powerful one, the one on top, that kind of thing, which is very much not me, because I'm a really kumbaya, let's work together person.
Sure.
And so I had to kind of reach a different part of myself, or what I imagined that kind of person to be like. So it was more like that, trying to reach into psychology. And then it was really memorizing all the lines really, really well, so that I didn't have to be focused on that day of. I felt like if I had all that down really, really well, then I could just focus on the right emotion to have, or the right way to, say the lines. So that was kind of where my focus was, really, really memorize and try to be detached and all powerful.
And all powerful, which you did feel all powerful. I wouldn't mind seeing your character again in another film, in all honesty. I dug it quite a bit. And for you, Joseph, as well, I mean, you for your inspirations, you mentioned kind of your childhood slashers. What was kind of the inspiration for The Killer? Was the challenge was to pull from your inspirations but not make just another cookie cutter killer?
Absolutely. Yeah. I wanted a slasher killer, but I wanted to have a unique background to him, and so there is a lot that is going to be told in part 2 that I did already write about the origins of the mask and everything about Specimen 6 himself. I wanted to be able, theoretically, I was trying to figure out what would make somebody pure evil and unstoppable, and what is evil itself. And so I kept rolling that through my brain over and over. And it's maybe there's a physical evil as well as a spiritual evil. And what would that physical evil be, and how would it take form? And so I started getting this idea that it was a hormone that exists in everybody in very minute amounts. But it was only really a theoretical thing that Marissa knew about, and hence we get the whole Travis story, and then she manipulates that evil and makes it into something not natural. And so and so yeah, I wanted that to be like the sciencey part, and then I also wanted there to be underneath it. He is also part cybernetic, so that's all I'm going to say right now. So there is some of
Ooh.
that. Yeah, so that will be more in part two, and the mask is something kind of just complementary to the killer itself. There's like really has nothing to do with his being unstoppable. I wanted something unique to be there, but the mask itself, my original idea is that it is created from the flesh and bone of an Anababi tribal shaman, which is just made up yuckity yuck stuff that I did. Sure. And so it's it's supposed to look like it's flesh and bone and things of that nature with tattoos, and that's more. We're going to be exploring that in part two, where it's kind of. It embodies a different sort of evil in itself, and only Specimen 6 is able to wear it because if a normal person wore it, it would drive them insane. So that's more of like a Lovecraftian sort of thing there. So I kind of have all these origin stuff and a lot of story elements that I don't explicitly say in the movie. But yeah, I did want my guy to be very much different, but also a good slasher. Sure. So he is a guy that stomps around the woods and he kills people, and that's his whole thing. But yeah, I didn't want to just do another Jason or another Michael Myers or anything. I didn't want to, because you see enough of those. So and it's just not really my bag to just like carbon copy something and do another thing. So.
Which I also noticed, because it could have been, I could see real easy to fall into the still a trend out there of just, hey, look at this being another 80s retro horror type film. Yeah. And you don't have that here. I mean, this felt modern. I mean, you could see the influences, but I think it does have a modern take. So you did mention there is a part two. This one was an anthology. Will part two be an anthology, or are you going with a regular narrative with that one?
No, part two is going to be an anthology, so I'm going to be filming this one a little differently. I'm going to be taking my time. It's going to be bigger in scope, more epic. So really, Specimen 6 was not just like an homage to the serial killer for me. It was also kind of my thesis, my research paper that I wanted to kind of like really dig in and find out what the slasher killer is and what that meant to me as a director and as a horror fan. And so that's why I kept writing all these different stories in different ways. I wanted to see that slasher in a different setting in hell. So in this, I wanted to explore the origins and who could possibly create this character, but also what his impact on the world was going to be. And there was going to be a seventh story in this one, but everything kind of collapsed and I couldn't end up filming this. Plus, there was a lot of other things about it. So I did write a bunch of other scripts, and I didn't get to explore the idea of the final girl in this particular one as well. And that means a lot to the slasher killer genre is who is the final girl? You have to have a final girl. Yeah. And so I wrote several scripts and none of them quite felt right for this. And so I kept like putting it on the back burner, and then writing more scripts. And I just never got around to shooting a final girl thing. So part two is really going to be my magnum opus about the final girl. And so we're actually going to get two different final girls in part two. And one that's more modern, one that's completely not what you're going to think of whatsoever. So that's all I'm going to say. Yep. And then we do dig into the origins of the mask in part two as well. So Tonjia and I have been talking about things as well about that.
Ooh, so Tonjia, does it mean we don't know spoilers, but could we possibly see the evil return? If you had the opportunity, would you come back to it?
The ultimate final girl.
I'm sorry.
Right. My character is the ultimate final girl, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
that she is.
No, I actually don't know everything that's going to be in the second one yet, but I'm available to.
I'm working on it right now.
Well. Well, that's awesome. Well, I want to say just get your little bit break away from just the movie. What would you say for you, Joseph? Horror film, your favorite horror film, and why?
My favorite horror film of all time, and I think this is pretty out there. Everybody knows this about me. Is Friday the 13th Part 7. Yep, the New Blood.
The
So
New Blood, yeah, with the psychic girl.
exactly, and for a very particular reason. So, John Carl Buechler is an amazing director. I love and of course, Kane Hodder is amazing. Mm-hmm. So, Kane Hodder, in my opinion, is the best Jason Voorhees. He moves like this force of nature in the film. Like, I think he embodies the perfect elements of what Jason Voorhees is. Just this pure evil force that's driving through the world, this pure rage, and Jason looks coolest in that as he's ever been. His design is amazing, but it's really also because of the final girl, because of Tina, and how I think this might be intentional. What John Carl Buechler was trying to do was kind of, the world is reacting to Jason right here, and it's how does the world kind of counter what Jason is, and so she's kind of this evolutionary being. Mm-hmm. You know, she's above the other final girl. She's been developed somehow. I mean, why would she particularly be at Camp Crystal Lake in the first place when she was a kid, and why would she show up later on again as well? Mm-hmm. So she was meant to be there. She was meant to fight Jason. She was built to be able to fight Jason, and of course she's not this unstoppable killing force, but she does have these abilities that she's able to counter everything that he is. And so Friday the 13th Part 7, I watch that probably 4 or 5 times a year. That would be it right there.
Yeah. Well, and I remember seeing Part 7 and being surprised even when I saw the trailer, because up until that point, a lot of the slashers, especially in the Friday the 13th, sure, you had the final girl, but you didn't have one that just seemed to be badass kind of from the start. You know, I mean, it's like a fight. She's bringing it back to your slasher, and I remember watching that going, wow, that's actually very cool, because you hadn't really seen that in, that right up front, where most of the film is actually this back and forth. It's mostly killer chasing her and her just trying to survive. And here she's just bringing it back.
Oh, big time too. Like when she gets pissed, she really brings it. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great choice. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't say Jason Friday the 13th Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan.
It Takes Manhattan. No, sorry. I love all the Friday the 13th, but no, Part 7 is my favorite out of all of them.
Only really good part for me out of Part 8 was the one time where Jason is standing on Times Square and the gangsters come up to him and want to try to mess with him, and all he does is raise the mask and they run away.
Yep.
That's like the only part I remember from that movie. So
it was cool when he punches the dude's head off too, and it rolls down into
there is that too. I'm partial to Jason X, though. That still has to be one of my favorite kills in a slasher film.
Oh yeah, I love Jason X. The thing that I love about Jason X and Jason in Part 7, as well as Jason Goes to Hell, is how it kind of, all of those things kind of break from the from what he had been in 1 through 5. And I love Part 6, but that Part 6 big thing was just bringing him back from the dead and making him the supernatural character. But really, it's not just about it. It doesn't just go back to him going around killing people at a lake. It actually said, well, let's explore other aspects of this world. And that's what I love about all of the films. Like when you just keep going, is like, I want more answers. I don't just want that killer that goes around killing people. I like story. And there's a lot of story in those particular ones.
Oh, there is, definitely. Tonjia, what about you? You a Friday the 13th fan?
I am a fan of so many horror films. So yeah.
Did you have a personal favorite out of the series?
I don't. I enjoy them, and I enjoy them for different reasons. Sure. And yeah.
What would you say then? One of your favorite horror films?
That's a hard one. I actually had this question on my last. We had a Monos live stream podcast the other night, and I was like, I don't know, because I love so many horror films. Like so many horror films. I like all the Romero films and Stuart Gordon, and just all the classics. I just am a fan. I did say one of the films when I was a child was my favorite, which says a lot about me, was A Watcher in the Woods.
Ooh, nice pick.
And I watched that, in elementary school when I was little, and it scared the crap out of me. And I remember once, when I was a little bit older in college years, I tried watching it, just for nostalgia's sake, to see what I felt about it. And it was still very eerie.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that one was a childhood favorite. I would say probably, as an adult, one of my favorites, and it might be an unconventional pick for a horror film, but Lost Highway.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That movie really gets me. And I feel like, by the time you're at the end and you kind of know what's going on and you're like, oh, that's what's going on. But it's really the way it's told, the way the whole story is told. You kind of get the feeling like you're in the head of the main character who's trying to escape thinking about the bad stuff. And then at the end, you do have an aha moment, when it is revealed. And I think it was just so well done.
Yeah, that's interesting choice. Though that's a good movie though. So, Lost Highway. I don't think people would have picked that, but that's a good choice. Yeah, for me, I've got kind of my standards, but one film that still creeps me out, and I found this out after I went to go see it at the theater because they released it just before Dr. Sleep, was The Shining. I've seen a lot of twisted and dark films, but for me, when the kid does the red rum, to this day, that makes me squirm a little. Just the sound design, the way the kid they did, the kid did the voice, that just I think it's because I watched The Shining far too young than when I should have, which if you're a child of the 80s, that's your mantra. You watched films you shouldn't have way too young. And yeah, The Shining for me, when he does the red rum thing, that thing still it's like, oh yeah, it still got me. My friend Dawn, she got a kick out of it because we were watching it, and she saw me squirm a little when the kids started doing the red rum thing, and she just chuckled. She just, and I'm like, leave me alone. So, well, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this, and you said you've got the second one coming out. I am going to take some time in the scope of that, but where can they catch your stuff at, Joseph, to keep up on when the next one's coming out, as well as the other projects you have? Because you have a podcast and a lot of other things a lot of other plates you spin.
I do. Yeah, so thank you for asking that. So there's so I have a YouTube channel. It's Stogele Films, Stoegele. It's kind of when you pop it into YouTube, something with the algorithm doesn't quite work. Just type in my name and then it'll pop up. I come out with 2 episodes a week of the show I do with my friend Mariana, and it's a raunchy show. We talk about horror films, and I make very gross jokes here and there. And I also occasionally do just silly little short films that I post on there as well. And if you go over to the Facebook page of Stogele Films, I've done a lot of live events in promoting Specimen 6, and we do kind of specials. We did kind of a weird Valentine's Day special thing that was like a dating game thing. And I did an audio drama, a Specimen 6 audio drama over Christmas.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, so I'll be releasing that here soon in a couple months. I'm re-editing the sound a bit. If you go to my Stogele Films YouTube as well, you can see my first film, The Last Temptation of Bible Boy. And it's about a 45-minute, it's kind of a comedy horror film with lots of bad taste and boobs and blood. And this is kind of my trademark. And I also got a couple other things coming out. So my friend Joe Sherlock, that Tonya's also friends with, I acted in a film of his coming out soon called Channel 99. Ooh. And so that's a horror anthology, and we had a great time filming that right before all this crazy stuff hit. I'm not exact. I think sometime this fall that's supposed to come out. And then I also have a weird little part in a movie, is Things 6, right, Tonja?
Yeah, I don't know if that's announceable yet, but
oh, that's okay. I can trim that. I'll trim that out. That's fine.
It may be. I just don't know.
I think there's been a promotion for it and stuff.
Oh, there has. Okay.
Yeah. Joe had it on his website. So.
Oh, okay.
Things
That's
6.
Yes.
Yeah, a while. So.
That sounds like it would be wild, definitely. So great, yeah. And I'll put links on the webpage for this podcast episode on our website for everyone to reach out for that stuff, the YouTube channel and that. So we'll put that out. And Tonjia, for you, what's kind of next on deck for you, and where can they keep up with your stuff?
Well, everything is Tonjia Atomic. You know, I'm on all the social medias, Tonjia Atomic. And I just started a Bandcamp page. I have tons of music, and I'm going through that and just uploading that because I'm starting to get back into music again. I just did a song for Andrew Shearer's film, Vincent Price's Skull. I just did the theme song for that. I'm also going to be in Joe Sherlock's Channel 99 and Things 6 as well. As Things, I'm in Things 5 as well, which is available, I think, just online. And then, you know, my films, Monster Returns, Plain Devil, and Hobo with a Trash Can are all on Amazon Prime right now. Or actually, Plain Devil I don't think is on US Prime, but it's on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. So, excellent stuff. Yes, folks, check that out. I am familiar with Joe Sherlock's work. I saw Beyond the Wall of Fear.
That's good.
And that was a lot of fun, that one. So definitely looking out for those projects and looking forward to seeing more of both your works. Again, thank you for taking time for my little sliver of the internet here to talk about your film. I much appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun. And hopefully when those projects hit, or when the new project, the sequel to this, maybe we can have you back. If you're,
I would love that. Yeah, thanks for having us on. Oh, and I wanted to say Specimen 6 is on Vimeo. I forgot to say that.
Yep. I've actually got a link already set up to post on the page as well. So
right. Awesome.
For that, yes, folks, support indie cinema. Check it out. It doesn't cost much to rent, especially if you like indie stuff, and it helps out filmmakers so they can make more stuff. Because I'll eat up indie cinema more so than Hollywood horror any day of the week. I mean, I just heard now that the other sequel they were coming up that was going to be a direct sequel to Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre is now in trouble. And I'm like, didn't they do this already? That franchise, I'm just like, leave it alone. Quit touching it. But thank you very much. And now I think we'll just say a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.